Welcome the timeless forgotten mystery. Most people today believe that when we say Lanka, it simply means Sri Lanka, the island nation we see on modern maps. But what if that's not the whole truth? What if Ravana's Lanka was something far greater, not just a small island, but a massive lost land that once existed thousands of years ago, a continent that vanished beneath the ocean long before our recorded history began? Many ancient traditions remember this mysterious land under different names: Lemuria, Kumari Kandam, and Sunderland. The names may differ, but the essence, the pattern, and the mystery are the same. All speak of a magnificent civilization that once thrived and then disappeared into the depths of the sea. When we read the Ramayana, we often think of it as a poetic epic, a story of gods, heroes, and moral lessons. But modern research suggests it may be far more than that. Indian researcher Nilesh Oak analyzed over 600 astronomical references embedded in the Ramayana, descriptions of solar and lunar eclipses, planetary alignments, solstice markers, and specific star positions. He used advanced planetarium software to reconstruct the ancient skies described in the text. The results were astonishing. All these celestial patterns aligned perfectly to one single period in time, around 12,209 BCE. This discovery placed the events of the Ramayana not in the Bronze Age as traditionally believed, but at the end of the Ice Age, a time when massive climate shifts, melting glacier, and rising sea levels were transforming the Earth. Giant floods were reshaping coastlines, swallowing entire cities, and changing the face of continents forever. The Ramayana also includes a subtle but profound reference to a star called Canopus, known in ancient Indian astronomy as Agastya. The text mentions that Rama could only see this star after reaching the southernmost tip of India. When astronomers simulated the ancient skies, they found that this exact visibility condition could only have occurred around 12,000 BCE, perfectly aligning with Oak's findings. This isn't coincidence, it's precision. It suggests that the author of the Ramayana had an incredibly accurate understanding of astronomy and geography. Ancient Indian texts like the Suya Siddhanta and Aryabhatiya go even further. They describe Lanka as lying at 0 latitude and 0 longitude, the very center of the Earth's coordinate system. But there's a twist. Their prime meridian wasn't at Greenwich, like today, but at Ujjain in India. If we calculate based on that, the coordinates of ancient Lanka would place it not exactly where modern Sri Lanka is, but further south, somewhere in the Indian Ocean, near the Maldives or slightly east of them. Interestingly, modern geological surveys have revealed the presence of large submerged landmasses in that very region, vast areas that were once dry land during the Ice Age but later sank beneath the rising waters. During the last Ice Age, sea levels were about 120 meters lower than they are today. Back then, there was a huge landmass known as Sunderland, which connected present-day Indonesia, Malaysia, and much of Southeast Asia into a single supercontinent. When the glacier began to melt and the oceans rose, this entire region was gradually engulfed by the sea. In ancient Tamil literature, there is a strikingly similar memory of a lost land called Kumari Kandam. The Sangam texts describe it as a vast and beautiful region ruled by the Pandyan kings, filled with magnificent cities, temples, and centers of learning. Then came a catastrophic flood that destroyed everything. Cities sank, kingdoms vanished, and survivors were forced to migrate north. These stories sound less like mythology and more like the collective memory of a people who witnessed their homeland swallowed by the ocean. Even the ancient Greeks knew of such a land. The famous geographer Ptolemy mentioned a huge island in the Indian Ocean, a land so large that while some thought it was Sri Lanka, others believed it was something far greater, a lost continent that later vanished from maps. Centuries later, in the 1800s, Western scientists faced a puzzling mystery. They discovered fossils of lemur species in both India and Madagascar, but not in Africa. To explain this strange distribution, zoologist Philip Sclater proposed the existence of an ancient land bridge or continent that once connected these regions, naming it Lemuria. Later, German biologist Ernst Haeckel even mapped this lost continent and suggested that it could have been the birthplace of the earliest humans. Although the term Lemuria has faded from modern scientific vocabulary, geology has, in a way, confirmed that such ancient continental fragments did exist. In 2013, scientists studying the island of Mauritius found zircon crystals that were over 3 billion years old, far older than the island itself. These tiny crystals could only have come from a much older continental crust that once existed and later sank beneath the Indian Ocean. Scientists named this lost fragment Mauritia, a ghost of a prehistoric continent buried deep below the ocean floor. Now, let's return to one of the most iconic parts of the Ramayana, Rama's Bridge, or Ram Setu, said to have been built by Lord Rama's army to reach Lanka. For centuries, many dismissed this story as a legend or metaphor. But then came the satellites. Modern satellite images clearly reveal a chain of submerged land formations connecting the southern coast of India to Sri Lanka, precisely where the Ramayana places the bridge. The formation stretches about 35 kilometers long and 3.5 kilometers wide, almost the exact 10-to-1 ratio mentioned in ancient texts. When the Geological Survey of India conducted drilling studies, they found not random natural deposits, but distinct layers of wood, coral, and stone arranged above marine sand, a pattern that follows deliberate construction, not nature's chaos. It looked engineered, as if someone had intentionally placed these materials to form a bridge over the sea. The Ramayana even tells us who built it: Nola, the brilliant architect among Rama's allies. It describes how the Vanaras, or forest engineers, used ropes to align and stabilize the stones, constructing the bridge in a perfectly straight line across the ocean. Whether you see this as myth or history, the alignment between scripture, satellite imagery, and geological evidence is impossible to ignore. Was this merely a symbolic story, or a record of a real engineering feat lost in time? Off the coast of Tamil Nadu, near Pumpuhar, divers have discovered underwater ruins, stone platforms, walls, and steps that could only have been built when the sea level was much lower, around 11,000 years ago. These ruins suggest that an ancient coastal civilization once flourished there, until the ocean claimed it. When you piece all this together, the astronomical precision, oceanographic evidence, ancient literary records, and geological findings, they all point to a single, astonishing possibility. Perhaps Ravana's Lanka was not the Sri Lanka of today. Perhaps it was the grand coastal capital of a vast continent, one we now call Lemuria, Kumari Kandam, Sunderland, or Mauritius. Different names, yet all telling the same story, of a highly advanced civilization that didn't disappear because of time, but because of water. A world that thrived in the dawn of humanity, only to be swallowed by the rising seas, leaving behind fragments of memory, submerged ruins, and the ancient echoes preserved in epics like the Ramayana. Maybe, just maybe, our myths are not fantasies, but faint memories of a world our ancestors once called home. A world of knowledge, spirituality, and extraordinary science, now resting silently beneath the waves. If this story awakens something in you, then subscribe to Awakened Epochs, where we uncover the truths that lie hidden between mythology, history, and the forgotten depths of our planet.